If you go back really not that long ago, as I say, we owned the news. We were the gatekeepers, and we very much owned the facts as well. If it said it in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, then that was a fact. Nowadays, people can go to all sorts of different sources for the news, and they're much more questioning about what we're saying.
This is my video update on this Sunday, January the 21st. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with the rocket and possibly ballistic missile attack at the U.S. Air Base in Iraq, the Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq. This was, I believe this was one of, if not the biggest attack on this air base in Iraq. This actually prompted the Iraqi government to try and kick out the U.S. military from Iraq, but the U.S. military told them, no, we're not leaving. And then I believe the Iraqi government, they barred entry to any more U.S. soldiers into Iraq. So this was a big deal. This was a big attack. The big question is if we are indeed talking about rockets or ballistic missiles, because if ballistic missiles were used, then the links to Iran will be made and are being made. So let me read you what the New York Times is saying. They had an article with the title, "Widening Mideast Crisis, U.S. Troops in Iraq Injured in Attack Linked to Iran-Backed Militias." Linked to Iran-backed militias. You can already see the narratives forming. The New York Times, they write, the attack against Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq, which came at 6:30 p.m. local time, were the latest and the most serious of roughly 140 such rocket and missile strikes against U.S. troops based in Iraq and Syria since the Gaza war started. At least 10 rockets and 7 short-range ballistic missiles were fired at the base, with 2 making it through air defense systems. In the most successful attack the militias had carried out so far, the attack was another example of the region being pulled into a broader conflict. So the New York Times, they're reporting that 7 short-range ballistic missiles were fired at the base. So they're actually confirming that ballistic missiles were used in this attack. And the New York Times, they are linking this to Iran-backed militias. Now, Zero Hedge, Greece, America, Cyprus, the UK, Spain, and the EU flag is somewhere down there. Let's see what the exchange rate is. All right. And let's make our way across the streets very carefully here. So, Zero Hedge, they are reporting that details have continued trickling out and are scant. But by all accounts, the Saturday attack on Al-Assad Air Base in western Iraq, which houses U.S. forces, was a big one. Reuters cites an official who said the base was hit by ballistic missiles, but he left open the possibility it was struck by rockets. This has led some speculation that ballistic missiles could have been fired on the U.S. outpost by Iraq from Iranian territory. But Reuters also notes 2 security sources in Iraq and one government source said the base was hit by multiple rockets fired from inside Iraq. So Zero Hedge citing Reuters is not painting as clear a picture as the New York Times is painting. It could have been ballistic missiles, a combination of rockets and ballistic missiles, but it also could have just been rockets fired from inside Iraq. So obviously the fear is that this is going to lead to more escalation, a wider war with Iran. That is the fear, and that is what the neocons are hoping for. So that is the attack at the Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq. So there was a drone strike, a drone attack in Russia at a gas terminal in the by the Baltic Sea area, the Novatek gas terminal. It was hit by a drone. There are various videos and photos of fires at this gas terminal. From what I read, there were no injuries, and I think the fire has been put out, but more drones hitting these targets inside of Russia, which once again, they don't provide any military strategic value as far as the conflict in Ukraine is concerned. But this is once again about media optics, try to create some panic and fear inside of Russia, and that's the purpose of these drone strikes. Many drones are sent towards Moscow and St. Petersburg and Voronezh and Rostov. A lot of drones are always sent into Russian territory, and Russian air defense, they've pretty much knocked down most of the drones. But as I have said in many, many videos, every now and then a drone gets through, and every now and then a drone does do damage. But, you know, this fire incident at the Novatek Baltic Sea gas terminal is the reason why the Russian military is going after NATO mercenaries. I'm trying to do my air quote sign. That is why they are going after NATO mercenaries, because there are a lot of reports which claim that all of these drone strikes into Russia, these attempted drone strikes into Russia, and every now and then the successful strike, the drone that manages to get through, all of this is being coordinated by mercenaries, Collective West NATO mercenaries, and they have the coordination from NATO, from the NATO command centers, and there are reports, I can't confirm any of this, which claim that these mercenaries are also operating inside Russia and definitely inside Ukraine, but also inside Russia, and they're coordinating these strikes on these infrastructure targets, which once again make no difference to the actual trajectory of the conflict, but they painted a picture of Russia somehow being susceptible to strikes deep inside its territory. And the media loves these stories. They love to run with these stories of Ukraine hitting Russian territory. And this has actually been constructed into some sort of narrative now, which is that, you know, provide long-range missiles to the Zelensky regime, and we'll be able to hit deep inside of Russia, and that will eventually lead to panic and fear and a collapse of the Putin government. That's kind of like a new strategy. We can't win the conflict inside Ukraine, but if you give us the Taurus missiles and the long-range missiles, then we'll hit deep inside of Russia, because Russia is not properly defended. The Russia proper is not defended, and we'll be able to get the government in Moscow to capitulate, because the long-range missile strikes will just be overwhelming. This is all part of this new narrative to try and get the Collective West to hand over the Taurus missiles and stuff like that. And of course, more money. But let's see here. The Ukraine air defense spokesman, he actually confirmed as much, that this is the strategy, trying to get long-range missiles and drones to hit Russian territory. The spokesman, Ignat, that's the guy's name, the Air Force spokesman, he said that Russian air defense is thinning out. They filled the front line and Crimea with it, air defense, but you see that the Russian territory is not so filled with air defense equipment. Moscow, St. Petersburg, Putin's bunker will be more or less protected, but Ukrainian-made drones reach Moscow, St. Petersburg, and oil depots in other cities. This is a very good sign. So this is what I was trying to say over there. I don't think I did a very good job in explaining it, but yeah, that's what's going on here. Every now and then, out of every 100 drones, one gets through and one does some damage. And the Air Force spokesman for Ukraine is basically saying this is proof that Russia's air defense inside of Russia is very thin, because they've moved everything to the front line, which is nonsense, absolute nonsense. But give us long-range missiles, and if drones are doing this amount of damage, just think what long-range missiles will do, and this will lead to some sort of capitulation of the Putin government, to some sort of victory. That's their path to victory now, hitting Russia with drones and missiles. It's nonsense. It's all nonsense. Yermak, the entertainment lawyer for Zelensky, Yermak, who they say is the guy running the show. He's the real brains behind the clown puppet. Yes, Yermak towers over Zelensky, by the way. Yermak seems to be a big dude. Either Yermak's a big dude or Zelensky's just a little dude. But Yermak's like, the counteroffensive. The counteroffensive, he said, was actually a success, the spring-summer counteroffensive. He said it was a big success. People just haven't realized what a success it was. That is what Yermak said, and I quote, "Such a weird city. You got high-rise apartments selling for $1 gazillion, and then you have just everything else abandoned and closed down, So bizarre. It really, really is." So Yermak said, and I quote, "I agree, the expectations have to meet capabilities, and taking into account the capabilities provided, the counteroffensive was quite successful." Yermak concluded, implying that Western aid had proven way too limited for the counteroffensive to yield better results. We just didn't get enough money and weapons. It was a success. It really was a success. But it was a success given the limited money and weapons that we received. Given the limited $500 billion and complete military inventories of just about every country in the collective West, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. We needed more. But it was still a success, Even though we didn't get more, it was still a success. And Maria Zakharova, she replied to Yermak's comment on Telegram, and this is what she posted. And I quote, "He forgot to mention Ukraine's counteroffensive was successful for Russia." Maria Zakharova. The counteroffensive was a success for Russia. So that was Maria Zakharova's reply to Yermak's statement. The delusional entertainment lawyer of Zelensky Zelensky's entire administration, pretty much his entire administration, I won't say his entire administration, let's say 50%. I'm just going to put a number out there. 50% of his administration is like his whole production staff when he was a TV and movie star. His script writers, his producers, his directors, his entertainment lawyer. That's the Zelensky government. What a joke, man. What a freaking joke. So, yeah, that's what's going on in the conflict in Ukraine. Alexander did a really good report yesterday about how the Russian military is moving closer and closer to taking all of Avdiivka. It is going to take time, but the Russian military the other day made significant progress. I don't know if they've moved closer to capturing the coke plant, but if they have, I imagine this is causing a lot of panic for Zelensky. Not the coke plant, but Oliak, anything but the coke plant. But yeah, Avdiivka is going to be lost sooner or later, just like Bakhmut and Marinka and Soledar and Mariupol. Brian Berletic did a good roundup on what's going on in Avdiivka yesterday on his channel, so check it out. And yeah, the Avdiivka is just being used by the Russian military to grind down more Ukraine forces, and the result is inevitable. Sooner or later, Avdiivka will go the way of Bakhmut and all of the other cities that Russia has focused on, that the Russian military has focused on. Zelensky, he did an interview for Channel 4. I believe Channel 4 is UK, right? Channel 4 UK. And he once again invited Trump to Kiev. Yeah, he invited Trump to Kiev. And I'm not sure if he was joking around or if he was being serious with this invitation, to be quite honest. I got the impression that he's kind of mocking Trump. That's the impression that I got from this interview on Channel 4, but check out the interview and let me know what you think. But he extended the invitation to Trump to come to Kiev. And he basically said, come to Kiev and tell us what your plan is to end the war in 24 hours. Let me see if I have a quote here. Quote, Donald Trump, I invite you to Ukraine, to Kiev. If you can stop the war during 24 hours, I think it will be enough to come. So that is what Zelensky said. Let's move away from the music here. Some music playing. So, yeah, I invite you to come. Donald Trump, if you could stop war in 24 hours, I invite you to come to Kiev. And it's kind of interesting that Zelensky seems to be the only person who has not quite understood how Trump is going to end the conflict in Ukraine in 24 hours, when everyone knows how Trump is going to do it. Like, everybody knows. I don't think there's a person on this planet that doesn't know how Trump is going to do it. The same way how he ended the conflict or how he ended IS in Syria. It's real simple, Zelensky. He is just going to stop the money coming into your bank account, Zelensky. That's how he's going to do it. You don't know that, bro? Just like one push of a button, he's just going to sign one document, and that'll be it. No more money to Zelensky. Conflict over. Conflict over. You're going to have to sit down at the negotiating table with Putin, or you're going to have to pack your bags and get out of Dodge. But either way, the conflict ends right there. Once the U.S. pulls support, it's over. That's how Trump is going to do it. That's the plan. That's the plan, everybody. That's it. Nothing more to it. But Zelensky, he invited Trump once again. ready to trap Trump into the Zelensky curse. They have activated, the Democrats have activated the Zelensky curse. That's how they're going to deal with the orange man. So what else? Fico, the Prime Minister of Slovakia, he is going to be meeting with the Prime Minister of Ukraine, Prime Minister Shmyhal. And Fico, he said, look, I'm going to be traveling to Kiev. I think he is going to Kiev. And unless the Prime Minister is going to be traveling to Slovakia, but I think he's going to be going to Kiev. But he said, I'm going to be meeting with the Prime Minister of Ukraine. And the message I will bring is no NATO membership. Not going to happen because that would just be World War III. He said no weapons from Slovakia because Slovakia is done with this conflict. Ukraine has lost, and Slovakia and Hungary. They are two European countries that understand this. And by the way, Slovakia has been tapped out anyway. They don't really have any weapons to give, but no more weapons to the Zelensky regime. And when it comes to EU membership, Fico said EU membership is okay, no problem, but Ukraine has to fulfill the requirements to become an EU member, which is basically Fico saying you're not going to get into the EU because everyone knows that Ukraine fulfills zero of the requirements to enter the European Union. If you go by the stated requirements from the European Union, financial, judicial, human rights, economic, fiscal, Ukraine fulfills none of those requirements. But we all know that there really is only one requirement at this moment in time to enter the European Union, and that requirement is, do you hate Russia and are you willing to start a conflict with Russia? If you fulfill that requirement, then you can get into the European Union. But look, yeah, Fico basically said you're not getting into the EU either. That was basically the message from Fico before he meets with the Prime Minister of Ukraine. By the way, Slovakia, this is an interesting story. I think this is actually a very good story, and good on Slovakia for doing this. There are reports that Slovakia has resumed cooperation in the field of culture with the Russian Federation and Belarus. That is a good development. Let's see, Slovakia restarts culture cooperation with Russia and Belarus. There are dozens of military conflicts in the world, and in our opinion, artists and culture should not suffer because of them. The culture minister's press secretary, Pavel Chorba, said. It's exactly right. There are many conflicts, and this doesn't mean that you should cut off cultural events and cultural ties with countries. And we see this hypocrisy playing out right now when you compare Russia and Israel, right? I mean, it's a glaring hypocrisy right there. But the culture ministry of Russia of Slovakia is 100% correct. It's time to reopen the cultural ties and cultural cooperations between all of the countries of Europe and Russia. So that was a good development via Slovakia. And they should open up the flights as well. All the flights should be open as well. Who is Ursula von der Crazy to decide what countries can travel to sovereign EU nations? Ursula decides the airspace of EU member states. That's nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. Greece and Cyprus, they should open up the airspace to all travelers, including to Russian airlines and Russian travelers. Anyway, we should get that movement going, you know? Gorilla. The blue gorilla. So that is the news out of Slovakia. What was I saying? Yeah, we should get a movement going where we try to get the EU member state countries to open up their airspace to Russian commercial flights. Anyway, let's talk about DeSantis. DeSantis looks like he is about to tap out. It looks like DeSantis is going to tap out right after New Hampshire. He is not going to have a good showing in New Hampshire. Nothing's going to happen in South Carolina either. And DeSantis is canceling interviews and media appearances. And it looks like he's finito, DeSantis. He is finito. And that's going to leave two. And then there were two. Trump and Haley. That's how things are looking. And Trump the other day, he said that Haley isn't tough enough and not smart enough to be president of the United States. He's like, Haley would not be able to sit down with Putin or Xi Jinping. And yeah, absolutely. She's absolutely not tough enough. She's definitely not smart enough. But, Biden is not smart enough either, to be quite honest. And he's president. So, that was a statement from Trump. And Haley, she told Fox News that I am not running. Here's her quote. I am not running to be vice president. She said in Iowa last month, I don't play second. I've never done it in my life. I am not doing it. I think that Trump is not going to even have to worry about picking a VP, she said. I know that I will win in 6 months. Trump also said that Haley's not going to be the VP, by the way. So that's why she came out with this statement on Fox News. She's very confident that in 6 months she's going to win. So I wonder what the Uniparty and the globalists are whispering in Nikki Haley's ear. It's down to two, Nikki Haley and Trump. It's going to be down to two, Nikki Haley and Trump. And they must be whispering to Nikki Haley, just sit tight, and we are going to find a way to deal with Trump. We'll get Zelensky to invite him to Kiev, and he'll be plagued by the Zelensky curse. Something like that, who knows? But Nikki Haley is very, very confident that she will be left standing in 6 months. I don't think so. Everything that they've thrown at Trump has defeated. And whatever they're whispering into Haley's ear, Haley's being very dumb to actually believe it. Very, 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 very stupid believing what the Uniparty is telling her. The Daily Mail, they came out with some explosive allegations against Haley the other day as well. So you guys can check that out from the Daily Mail UK, where they claim that Haley was up to some no good with some campaign people and other politicians. I don't even know. But check it out from the Daily Mail. Not that this stuff matters so much, in my opinion, whatever. She wants to do what she wants to do. That's fine. These are all allegations by the Daily Mail, and Nikki Haley, she's banned the Daily Mail from taking part in any of her events, and they won't be allowed to ask Nikki Haley any questions or attend any press conferences. That's how upset she is with these allegations. The mainstream media, they're not reporting on any of this stuff coming from the Daily Mail. Who knows? Who knows if this is true or not, but who cares? Who cares? The bottom line is that Nikki Haley is a warmonger, and the Uniparty wants her to be president really, really bad, and that's reason enough to make sure that she doesn't come even close to the White House. So that's what matters. So let's do a clown world, and we will wrap this video up. And I think I'm going to get coffee somewhere over here. Grab a cup of coffee and get this video uploaded. But in this clown world segment, we go to Sweden. We go to Sweden. And according to the Swedish tabloid Aftonbladet, and I know I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but according to Aftonbladet, coke was found in the toilets of the parliament. So Aftonbladet, from what I understand, they conducted an investigation, and they sent some reporters into the parliament toilets, and those reporters they looked for traces of drugs and stuff like that. They took samples and wipes, and they sent it to a lab to look for traces of any substances. And the lab, let me move back here. The laboratories, they came back and said of the 8 bathrooms that were studied. I'm at a loss for words now. Of the 8 bathrooms that the laboratory looked into, they found 4 of those toilets to have traces of the white stuff, the white powdery, sugary stuff. And according to Aftonbladet, the parties that use these toilets are the Social Democrats, the Sweden Democrats, the Left Party, and the Liberals. Those are the parties that access these toilets. And so those parties, they came back with a statement, and they said that these toilets are open to everybody. So we don't know how this white sugary stuff got into our toilet facilities. So wasn't Zelensky speaking in Sweden just the other day? but via video, I don't know. Did HB make a trip to Sweden recently? I don't know. Maybe HB was there. Who knows? Who knows how this stuff got into the laboratories, the toilets of the Swedish parliament? Oh boy. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop, 15% off all t-shirts. Take care.